Good.
Okay. So welcome one and welcome all. If you're brand new to this gathering, this is actually now the second day of the seventh week that we've been coming together around the world in this way to practice together, to cultivate mindfulness and to actually bathe in a sense of like a larger community that we perhaps didn't know we were, or is basically emerging out of our intention to uh, take this time that we're in some kind of enforced sequestration, of this forced uh, um, keeping ourselves at home as much as possible and creating a kind of refuge for ourselves, that this is actually uh, a very instrumental opportunity to cultivate mindfulness or to refine our mindfulness practice, because it's a lifetime's engagement of continual refining, or if you will, simply becoming more and more subtle and more and less contrived. So whether you're here for the first time or you've been here for all the 7 weeks that we've been at it, dropping in on this moment and feeling the energy that it took to get you here in front of your screen, no matter what time of the day or the night it is, morning, afternoon, evening, middle of the night. And yesterday we did what I sometimes call a mountain meditation, where we actually invoked an image to help us understand something about the intrinsic dignity and majesty of taking our seat and aligning ourselves with the central axis of our body and of our being in a mountain-like pose. And today I'd like to offer you a meditation that is in some sense a parallel or the mirror of the mountain meditation. That is what I call a lake meditation, where instead of the mountain, we're going to invite a sense of a body of water. This is beautifully done lying down. So if you want to lie down and that's easy for you, it's not for me. So I'm going to do it sitting up. But if there's any way that you could lie down or recline, it's actually made for lying down and reclining, because, you know, that's what water does. It seeks its own level. It drops into any kind of depression or basin in the earth itself. And so whether you're sitting or you're lying down, if you care to, inviting your eyes to close and just settling into lying here with a sense of the body as a whole, breathing. And everything that's going on in your life and in the world, and with this pandemic and the entire, full catastrophe of what we are immersed in. And let's not forget both the sorrow and the horrific end of things, side of things, and also the beauty simultaneously, all woven together in any and every moment. And simply allowing ourselves to settle into the body, which, by the way, speaking of a lake meditation, is apparently 86% water by weight anyway. So 86% of you is pure H2O. So a lake meditation may be just the thing to reconnect us with some kind of profound, original fluidity in our nature. And then when you're ready, picturing in your mind's eye a lake, a body of water that's being held and cradled in a basin or a depression in the Earth's surface, enough to actually hold a considerable amount of water that we would call it a lake, often fed by a source, a spring. And simply imagining or seeing in your mind's eye this body of water held, embraced by the earth itself. And as you visualize it, maybe it's on a clear, sunny day, or at this time of year, which is still spring, if I can keep my seasons correct and in the right order this time. But whether it's clear or cloudy, whether it's night or morning or daytime or evening, just recognizing that this body rests here, this body of water rests in the embrace of the earth 24/7. And when it's calm, it reflects whatever's above it. So sunlight, clouds, birds flitting by, trees perhaps around the periphery. The body of water, the surface simply reflecting what's ever around. And at night, of course, it might be the moon and the stars on a cloudless night. And through it all, the water, the lake just rests as it is, held, embraced by the earth itself. So as you care to, seeing if you can bring the sense of your body as a whole together with the image of the body of the lake until there's a total congruence, and you and the lake and your true nature as water become one with the body of the lake itself. And just settling into the embrace of the earth. And resting, just as water rests. And reflecting to the degree that the lake is calm, reflecting whatever changes are happening in the sky over the course of the day and the night, and whatever passes by over the lake, and whatever passes through your mind. So you can think of thoughts and emotions and sensations in the body all as weather patterns moving across the sky-like expanse over the lake-like body resting here, fully awake, whether you're lying down or sitting. and marveling perhaps at the fact that this lake, this body of water, actually breathes. And just like the mountain from yesterday, the lake experiences the changing of the hours, the unfolding of the calendar day by day, and the seasons. And our mind is the same way. It has its own seasons and its own weather patterns. So perhaps at certain moments, there's a sense of a cloudless sky above the lake, no wind, and the, the water is simply at rest, and the surface completely flat, reflecting whatever it is that is above it and around it. And so we can invite those kinds of moments into our experience because you can't be human without having those kinds of moments. Your true nature, of course, is water. But what happens to the water depends on various conditions. So on a windless day, the reflectivity of the mind, the actual focus of the mind can be very, very still, very, very stable. And then, of course, just like with the lake, this seasons move through from spring to summer heat to the fall into winter, and in some climates, snow and ice and freezing conditions, even to the point where the surface freezes over. And sometimes we can feel that way in our own hearts or minds. And yet, even under those conditions, the lake is teeming with life below the frozen surface. And so as summer follows spring and fall follows summer and winter follows fall, and then spring again comes around to follow winter, we can rest here in awareness, being the lake-like quality of our own life expressing itself, and noticing the weather patterns in the mind and how they affect the surface of our own mind. When it's turbulent, when there's wind blowing, the turbulence actually breaks up the reflections, and the light becomes sparkling or dazzling in the sunlight, or it becomes totally turbulent in cloudy, stormy conditions. And through it all, the nature of the lake just remains itself. And if we drop down underneath the surface, even in the most turbulent of times, or even in the winter, as was said, with freezing surface, there's just stillness. And in the case of ourselves, wakefulness, mindfulness, boundless spaciousness of awareness itself. Resting here, held in the embrace of your own intentionality to hold your experience in this moment, regardless of the moment, the season, the time, the weather patterns outwardly or inwardly. And in this time of pandemic, in the turbulence of this moment, in the uncertainty of this moment, in the storminess of this moment, in the scariness of this moment, can we actually be the entirety of the lake, not just the surface that is sometimes whipped to frothing out of reactivity or fear or one kind or another? Even though it's perfectly human for that to happen, can we also connect with the entirety of this body, this lake-like, if you will, body of being that is mostly below the surface and whose intrinsic nature is stillness? And just as the lake is teeming with life, even in those hard, freezing winter moments, so our deepest nature is teeming with life, clarity, wisdom, kindness, caring, direction, aspiration, love. And can we simply rest here in the love, being the love, being the knowing, trusting in our true nature as H2O, sometimes frozen, sometimes gaseous, sometimes fluid and liquid-like, but always H2O, always the kind of fundamental nature of our being. That is wakefulness. Nothing wrong with ice, nothing wrong with steam, nothing wrong with liquid. They all have their place in every aspect of our own experience has its place right in this timeless present moment. Can we embrace it here in this very moment? Lake-like, being who we've been all along, only more so in awareness, embodied, right here, right now. How is it? How is it being the lake in this moment? Giving yourself over to your own lake-like nature, where there truly is no place to go, nothing to do, and nothing incomplete that needs completing in this moment, nothing to attain. The lake simply is what it is. How is it for you in this moment? When you're open to or willing to receive the invitation to just be the lake, whether you're lying down in this moment and letting the mattress or the couch or whatever it is, or the floor hold you like the earth holds the lake, or whether you're sitting and have to engage in a little bit more imagining to feel that holding. What is the quality of the awareness right in this moment? What is the quality of the intention, the attention, the attending, I should say? The being, who you already are, all of who and what you already are. How is it in the mind? How is it in the heart? So the water element of our humanity is really unfathomable in many ways. That 84% H2O that allows all the other stuff to manifest as our life. So whenever you're ready, I would invite you to open your eyes if they've been closed. If you've been lying down, very, very slowly, see if you can raise this body of water upright. When we use these kinds of images like a mountain or the lake, of course, we understand that we're far more than a mountain, far more than a lake. But sometimes it's really helpful to just invite that kind of inner perspective of your favorite mountain or lake or body of water to just remind you and rebody you, if I can put it that way, what the formal meditation practices are really about, in the sense of being an invitation to recognize and abide it within or in your own true nature, which is far more interesting and complex than any mountain, rock, or any element, even a lake and water. And since we're learning and reminding ourselves how to cultivate awareness in every aspect of our lives, it's very, very helpful to have formal practices that are different doors into the same room. So the mountain, the lake, body scan, brief body scans, mindful yoga, like thousands of things that we can play with in mindful yoga. And I hope, as I've been emphasizing now for into our 7th week, that when you're waking up, for instance, and assuming we're all lying down while we're sleeping, in the moment when you wake up, can you actually drop into your body and play with the universe of sensations in the body? You don't need to invoke the lake, but, playfully, I would even ask you, how aware is it possible to be? Could you wake up? And if I asked you, did you wake up on the in-breath or an out-breath, would you know? It could be that subtle. Of course, it doesn't matter. The important thing is the waking up itself. And then every aspect of life unfolding in bed and as we get out of bed becomes part of the same meditation practice, the flowing element of the water, of the lake. And then how we are in relationship to things. Sometimes it's important to take a stand, to really be authentic, to align ourselves with our own ethical framework and values. And to do that in a kind of mountain-like way that has a boundless perspective, but at the same time is rooted and grounded and intrinsically simply what it is. So we're not trying to propagandize or force reality to be a certain way, but we are, in some sense, living our way into our wholeness, moment by moment by moment, into recognizing our wholeness, because there's no way you can not be whole. And in times such as this, where there's so much turbulence, there's so much centripetal energy that's causing us to, in some sense, to fly apart or lose our grounding or lose that central axis of our being, it can be very, very powerful to start the day in that way and then to simply intend for the whole day to unfold moment by moment in awareness, which it can, or that when we kind of forget, as soon as we remember, we're back. And then rather than this becoming exceptional, this is the way we would live even if there was no pandemic. We could bring our whole self to work. We could bring our whole self to school. We can bring our whole self to family. We can deal with whatever the challenges of life are, and they are legion, and know that in that sense, we're simply being human, no different from anybody else, except that when you hold things in awareness, you have, in some sense, an extra dimension with which to navigate the ups and downs of life in ways that may make all the difference in your own personal sanity and well-being and physical health and mental health, and also in all your relationships, especially those with the people with whom you're closest, but also to total strangers, and the kind of generosity that at times pours out of us when we are in the face of the enormity of the suffering of other people. As we saw yesterday, when Shelley was with us and we talked about what she, as one human being, has been able to do by simply trusting in her own insight and intuition around what might be possible to, just for one person to catalyze kind of the elevation of other people who are in much worse condition, and at the same time invite other people who may have more resources at this particular moment in time to share them, so that the satisfaction is actually mutual, and we and people need each other to create those kinds of relationships that actually heal and serve and feed and house and supply essentials to people who are at the moment in very, very dire straits. So again, for those of you who haven't been here before, although it's sometimes customary to say, okay, now the meditation's over, or to ring bells or something like that, not doing that, because the meditation's never over, and it never began either. And but this coming together as we do on a daily basis during the weekday is simply a part of the unfolding and exploration in the laboratory of life itself under these highly unusual conditions. And today, being Tuesday, on Tuesday and Thursday, again, for those of you who are not aware of it, we will have a second hour that you are invited to join, whether you're on Zoom or whether you're on YouTube. And we'll tell you how to do that, remind you how to do that for the second hour, when we'll break up into groups of around 7 or 8 and really just have conversation, friendly conversations with people who may be halfway around the world from us, and yet all have the same kind of intention to be here for some reason or other. And it's really valuable to actually explore how mindfulness features itself in every one of our lives, and what we do to keep ourselves going, and to not only get through this time, but actually, to whatever degree it's possible, thrive and nurture not only ourselves, but others during this pandemic. So, Soren, I'm looking for you.
I'm right here, Jon.
Okay, there you are. You appear.
I have a different haircut, so hard to recognize.
Yes, notice Soren's haircut. I don't know if you want to make any comment about that. I wouldn't call it a haircut. I would say it's a
Removal,
complete
yeah,
hair
son
elimination.
my son and I did it as a kind of solidarity with my stepson Taj, who was coming back from the hospital, who's doing better. Thanks for everybody's wishes and prayers, and he's healing. The tumor was benign, fortunately, and so he's just kind of in that process of healing. But it seemed like a good opportunity, so we all look a little strange. He doesn't have to look strange by himself, so but it's really enjoyable.
Well, it's a beautiful gesture too. I mean, for both you and Navar, your son, to actually be in solidarity with Taj by doing something like that.
Yeah, he actually has
Really
quite a
beautiful.
bit more hair than us. But
Right.
okay. So we'll do some questions. And again, apologies we can't get to, I know some of you've had your hand up now for a long time, but we'll do our best. And there's nothing personal about kind of who we choose or who we don't choose. I try to get a mixture of men and women, mixture of different places in the world. But Mariana, I know you've had your hand up for a long time. And so you are here and unmuted. Let's see. Yes, can you speak now, Mariana?
And please tell us where you're calling from, everybody who gets to speak.
Hi, Jon and Soren, thank you. I'm Mariana. I'm from Buenos Aires, Argentina. And
Wonderful.
You know, the funny thing is when you did yesterday's and today's meditation, I thought of the same place because there's a mountain and the lake in the Patagonia area. There's Mount Lanin, which is a volcano actually. It's very beautiful, and it has on the bottom there's a glacier lake. And it's just, thank you for bringing it to my mind. So I just have just a comment about what is for me the meditation, and I do have a little story because last week Amy, one of the panelists, talked about her child. She has I think a 4-year-old son with some conditions, and I have a 21-year-old daughter with autism. And so I felt very much consonant with what she was speaking about and how I dealt with it. And the thing is, I'm a second generation because my brother is also Asperger. So I was raised with somebody in the family who had Asperger, and I saw my parents dealing with it. And then I have an autistic child this time. So my mother was she passed away in 2016. And she was a very wise woman. And I don't know what she felt about her own anxieties about her, you know, having my brother as an Asperger child. And she was always, there was always a sort of a happiness in my house, you know, and living in the moment, even though she didn't practice. And I got into that later. But I think she lived it that way. Mm. My brother is a happy person, you know, he has his things, but he's basically a happy person. And when I became a mother and I realized that my daughter was having some problems, later when I discovered meditation, what it was the best for me, even though I discovered it in a more intellectual way first, and then in a more presential and the way I lived it, is I felt that meditation and mindfulness really helped me being able to communicate with her by living and not by in an intellectual way, because that was not a path that I could take with her. So by being, I really changed a lot the way I lived with her and the way I connected with her. And then my mom had a broken aneurysm in the last few years of her life, so she couldn't speak. And that was wonderful how we were able to reestablish a relationship by just being together. Mm. And so one of the things I have to say is that when my mom passed away, I'm sure she was concerned about my brother, but it taught me that my brother is a happy person, even when my mom wasn't there anymore. And that really liberated me with my daughter. Mm. And that's a very important thing. She let go because, you know, it was her time to go. And my brother continued to live and is a happy person. And, you know, I trust that that the relationship and what I can teach my daughter while I'm alive will be what she needs to keep going when I'm not there, which is I'm hoping that that's the way it's going to be, that I'm going to be the first to go and not her. So I just wanted to say that because I thought that when Amy brought it up, it was something that I wanted to say. So thank you.
Thank you. That is really very beautiful. And I feel like, you know, all of us being children at one point or another, and then many of us having children, the mystery of it all is fathomless. And it's really wonderful to just share our different illuminating experiences from time to time when we see that we don't have to script the entire thing or get it all right or be perfect in any way, shape, or form. And that we can learn from each other in ways that we never would have suspected. Thank you, Mariana. It's very beautiful.
I just wanted to let you know that I also started reading the 3 Pillars of Zen, the one that you recommended. Thank you for recommending it.
You're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome. That was the first book of Zen that I ever read, because I actually met Kapleau when he came to the school I was at, and he gave a talk, and that talk changed the direction of my life.
I can imagine. I can imagine. But so thank you very much. I thank you for all your work, and thank you, Sarah.
Great. Next, I'm seeing, again, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce your name right. Asteya. There you are.
Hello,
You are
everyone.
live and unmuted.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm actually very nervous. I didn't expect to be selected. So, can you hear me?
Yeah, oh yeah, we can hear you. Where are you calling from?
So I'm calling from Vilnius, Lithuania.
Oh,
And yeah, first of all, thank you so much, Soren, for organizing this all. Eternally grateful. And Jon, for all of your work. I've been struggling with depression and anxiety for a majority of my life, and your work has been, well, really a guidance on many levels to me. I've been practicing mindfulness meditation for about 10 years, and I still feel like I'm a newbie.
so do I.
Good to know, good to hear. I had a really tough last year, actually, before even coronavirus pandemic has hit the whole world. My relationship broke off. I lost my business, my work, and then I was kind of reunited with my immediate family. And ironically, being isolated away from, because I lived in London most of my life, being back in Lithuania feels really actually good. And I'm very grateful for being with my old parents, and my grandma is nearby and stuff.
Mm.
However, and I have so many questions, but I keep remembering you saying that the answers are where those next to those questions. So I'm only going to choose one, and that would be, now as I kind of got over the shock and the trauma, like adapted to the isolation, I would say, in a way. Now I often feel what else is coming up is the anxiety of future, or the unknown, I guess. And I would have had to face it either way because of the changes in my life, but now the whole world has to change to face this. So I just would like to listen to you to speak to that a little bit, if possible, please.
Well, I think you're asking this question for all of us, because we're not going back to the world that we knew. There's no way. And we don't even know, I mean, at least in my country, how we're going to thread our way through this virus and what it's doing to our country, and how we are responding or, not responding wisely to the virus, because there are all these impulses that just get back to normal, but there's something that's killing us. So getting back to normal and then having more something that kills us, not so wise. So we're in a different universe all of a sudden. And as I've been emphasizing since the beginning, this is a moment when it's most important to not lose our minds, even though we're so used to going crazy whenever anything's not working out the way it's supposed to, the way we've told ourselves things should be. And now we're in a territory where we don't even know what to tell ourselves. We just don't know what to tell ourselves.
That's so true.
So so this is where that quality of not knowing becomes a lifesaver in a certain way. A lifesaver has a lot of different meanings, but one of them is you just hold on to it, and it keeps your face above the water when the ship has sunk. It's a life preserver. And the not knowing, but the knowing that we don't know, allows us to just be. Well, I don't need to say anything more, to just be. and to trust that we will find out what's next as things emerge, and no one's in control. No one's in control. And it's true in every country, whatever the government's doing, whatever the public health, approaches to the virus and mitigating it and so forth, that we're all as humanity experiencing a certain kind of wake-up call that we're not as in command of things as we thought we were. Because we never were. It was always an illusion, but you can, buy into certain kinds of illusions. And as long as things don't hit you over the head, you can believe them for your whole life, but they're still not true. So to stay with the not knowing and the knowing that you don't know gives you a whole range of possible ways, moment by moment by moment, to just be with it, with what is, and not, as they say in the Zen tradition, don't push the river. Okay?
I love this.
The river
That's
is flowing,
brilliant.
and this is the river of not knowing, the river of pandemic, the river of, countries trying to find their way back to some kind of economic stability and social stability and everything else. So this is really a time to trust. And the river, of course, is water. So it relates to the lake meditation, that there's a certain kind of trustworthiness in the nature of things. And again, this was not the first pandemic, and it won't be the last pandemic. So there's kind of a homework assignment here that is humanity finally going to learn how to reliably face these kinds of threats in ways that minimize death and minimize the suffering. And so far, we're nowhere near that. And then all of us as just regular people who are not running the world, how are we going to be in relationship with the people who are closest to us, some of which we can't even see or hug at the moment? And in terms of depression, let me just say, I'm probably not telling you anything you don't already know, especially if you've read The Mindful Way Through Depression, which I'm guessing you have.
This is what it is.
I thought you alluded to it. That depression is a kind of illness or a disease of thinking. It's a dysregulation of thinking. But everything that we've been watching in our own minds is in some sense a dysregulation of thinking. The thinking drives us crazy. And, Einstein is famous for having at least alluded to the fact that, you're lucky if you have one or two good thoughts in your entire life. Most of our thinking is not all that reliable, which is one really important reason for cultivating these multiple intelligences, like the somatic intelligence, trusting in the body, in the breath, in the sensation, and then emotional intelligence and being able to read that off the faces of other people, now made more difficult because we're all wearing masks.
Yes.
And then social intelligence. So I love that you remembered that I said the answers are lying right next to the questions, because you see, for you, whatever we mean even by answers, they're very, very creative and they're very, very particular. So your answers can't come from any place but you. They can't come from me. I'm, and answers are kind of all, in some sense, provisional. That's like, for now, I'll assume that it's this way until the world, shows me that it's not quite what I thought it was, and then I'll learn. So then it becomes a love affair or an adventure, as I've been emphasizing. And as long as you're willing to stay in awareness, you really can't go wrong, because you'll learn from whatever your choices are. All of us do and are constantly. And that way, it's not a metaphor that life is the meditation practice. It's the actuality that life is the meditation practice, that there is no separation whatsoever. And your grandma and, everybody else in your life are your teachers. And you don't have to tell them that. All you need to do is respect the potential to hold that in your own heart with your mouth closed so that you're not making some big story about that, and then seeing what unfolds.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome. I'm really glad you called. And are you in Vilnius at the moment? Or?
Yes, I am.
Yeah,
Yes.
so it turns out that I think my family has deep roots into Vilnius from hundreds of years ago.
Oh, fantastic. You must visit.
Someday I would love to. Yeah, but
Yeah.
right now is not the time.
No, definitely not right now.
Well,
Thank you
nobody's
so much once
visiting anyway.
again. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Next up, I'm seeing Ricardo from London. Ricardo, you are live and unmuted, so welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, to Jon, thank you for all you have done, putting together this program of stress reduction for so many years. Thank you. I want to make you a question. I know it's not exactly inside the matter of your program, but you could probably give it a try. The question is this one. First of all, well, I think I'm lucky to have an existence in this life. We are lucky. But sometimes I wonder, reading about mindfulness, meditation, a little bit of Buddhism, even though I'm not Buddhist, but I read a little bit.
Yeah.
So the question is, what is the purpose of us living in this world? I mean, this temporal staying here in the planet, in this world. What is the purpose of that? At least from the human side. That's the question.
Okay. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What do you mean by purpose?
Okay. What I mean is, the question is related to the way sometimes we, in the Western world, I mean this part of the world, Europe, America, we think we are here to accomplish certain goals like family, profession, fulfilling all these things. But I'm now reading about this meditation, etc., and I come to think, wow, but sometimes comes to like it's not so important. Some of this stuff is not so important. It's more important to live the present moment by moment, until probably it's over this temporal life we're living in. So that's why I thought about the question.
Well, I think you just answered. I think you just answered your own question, and very beautifully too, because there's no conflict between, wanting to get stuff done and realizing your own nature as a human being or our nature as a species. Why would there be any conflict whatsoever around that? In a way, if you're just zoning along on autopilot, as many of us do most of the time, to get through the day or to get through some piece of work or to get to some better place at some better time when we've gathered enough money or whatever it is, you could be missing years and years of your life, not even see your children for who they are, not have enough time. I don't have time. When you say to yourself, I don't have time, that should be a real wake-up call. You don't have time for what? All of us only have this moment. Everything else is just a concept. And so there doesn't seem to me that there's any contradiction between being and doing, which is, I guess, at the heart of what you're saying is like, what is the purpose of all the doing? Well, what you could equally, I'll ask, what is the purpose of all the being? And, you know, I would prefer not to even put that into words, because in a way, especially prose, poetry maybe, but prose kind of collapses things down into a kind of statement of whatever that's not really capable of containing the beauty and the mystery, so to speak. So I'll go with poetry and music at that point, you know, and let the resonances of our caring for realizing what you said when you answered your own question, that realization is profound. And then it's not like, okay, now that's over and I'll just go back to work. That's like, you know, that's how we could actually live our lives from moment to moment. And that would be a tremendous gift, not to ourselves, because it would be less stressful or that we'd feel, you know, much more at peace, but because we all influence each other. So when you, in some sense, recognize and learn to inhabit your own wholeness and your own well-being and your own beauty, and no longer are pursuing some small-minded self-interest that's driven very often by an acquisitiveness, or a sort of trying to maximize your own personal gain, then the world becomes a profoundly better place. And we can actually rejoice in the beauty reflected in, just as you see when we go through the galleries, reflected in every single face. I mean, there's so much beauty, and we're actually experiencing rejoicing in that. And that's a gift in and of itself. It says, well, what's the ultimate purpose of that? You know, that's just mere cognition. That's the kind of question that doesn't even deserve an answer. Because then I would just ask, well, who wants to know? Who is it that's framing a question like that in merely cognitive terms when you have miraculous beings in front of you that are manifesting in an insanely number of different, beautiful, unique ways? So I hope that answers your question, Ricardo, having already answered your own question, but I'm just kind of building on it a little bit.
Good, very good answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Soren, what shall we do?
Here we are. We've tried to break up into groups in this domain several times, and it hasn't worked, but I'm always open to giving it a shot.
Shall we do the gallery thing?
Yeah.
For a few moments.
I'm going to unmute everybody, but again, we are going to stay on. If you need to leave, please say goodbye and then leave. If you'd like to stay on, we'll have a second, an hour, where we'll break up into small groups, as Jon had mentioned. But we want to make sure everybody gets a chance to say goodbye. So we'll have 2 or 3 minutes of goodbyes, and then we'll break up into small groups. So in about 15 seconds, you'll be able to unmute yourself, and we can all go to gallery view and say goodbye in any and all languages of your preference. And again, then stay on if you want to break up into small groups with us. So you can now do that.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
Ciao.
Goodbye.
Muchas gracias por todo.
Everyone, perhaps I'll see you in the breakout groups.
To stay in the breakout group.
¡Es beautiful!
Says goodbye.
Buen día a todos.
So, Lucy, how are you?
Great.
Bye,
everyone.
Good, thank you. Gracias, doctor.
Yasmin.
Hi,
Hi, Jasmine.
Auf Wiedersehen.
a package.
Gracias.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all the fantastic.
Schön.
Bye.